So remember that time that we had a flood in the gym? I do. I remember it like it was yesterday. Oh, wait. It was.
Buckle up your seat as I give you a day in the life of facilities maintenance.
When that pipe broke, thousands of gallons of water spewed out onto our newly finished hardwood gym floor. But that's not the worst of it, actually. We cleaned that up in a couple of hours, but now what we have to deal with are the hundreds of gallons that are under the floor. Well, it's kind of telling me what we already know. Around the door, where our leak was happening, it's wetter. We knew that we had to get as much air moving under the floor as possible, so we pulled up the trim around the edges and just started blasting air underneath the floor. Over here, we knew that the blowers weren't going to dry anything out anytime soon. It kind of correlates with all the areas where we had more water settling on top of the floor, and we had more water settling on top of the floor because it kind of follows the contour of the concrete underneath it, which is not perfectly level. There's high spots and low spots. But in the short term, we had to do what we could to arrest any further damage. The water made it this far and settled into a lower area over here as well, which corresponds with what I'm seeing here. Let's go back over here where we know we had some dampness. So as I was saying, we've got those blowers around the edges moving air, and we know they're not going to dry anything out quickly. But remember, we're in panic mode here, so we had to do something to get the air moving underneath this floor.
Yeah, we're wet here. You can see it, the wood is swelling right here. We're very wet. Right there.
If our damage is limited to the edges, I'd say we got off lucky. So basically from where my meter is sitting right there to about a spot maybe 15 feet on the other side of the door, this area here shows the worst of it. So basically the moisture meter is confirming that which my eyes are already seeing, and that is anywhere where I see deformation or cupping or soaking in at the butt ends, the meter reflects that. Through a mutual contact with someone at the school, we were able to bring in a restoration company. But as I'm looking around at the equipment that they brought in, basically portable dehumidifiers, and while I think the way they set them up is quite creative, machines of this size are more suited for a small office environment, maybe residential. These mats are designed to pull moisture out of a carpet, not a sealed hardwood floor. I think these guys are a little out of their depth and just don't have the capacity to deal with what we've got here. I'm curious to see how much water was pulled out of the floor last night, and I'm curious to see what kind of moisture readings we're getting. Well, with the machines running all night, we've got about 3 inches of water in this can, and maybe 4 in the next one, which means we've only pulled about 3 or 4 gallons of water out of the floor with the machines running all night. So at this rate, we'll be here for about 8 months. So in case you're unfamiliar with these things, let me tell you what we've got. These are forced air desiccant dryers. They take the air from the room and they super dry it with a desiccant. And then that super dry air is being forced underneath the gym floor via the pipes and the ducting and the baffling and whatnot that we've set up here. And that super dry air passes underneath the gym floor and pulls the moisture under the floor with it, and it comes out the other side. It basically equalizes under the floor. And you can actually see, if you look closely here, cobwebs and whatnot moving around, how effective it is. There's a lot of air moving underneath this floor. And so what I'm going to do is set up control areas in the worst spots, where I'm going to take a moisture meter reading on a daily basis, and that will show me the progress or lack thereof that we're making. Right now I'm getting a reading of 17.1%. So I will record the date and the time of day and then the reading, and tomorrow I'll come back and I will check it again, and the next day I will come back and I will check it again, and we'll see if we're heading in the right direction.
Good morning. Well, it's the next day. The machines have been running for a little over 20 hours now. I thought I'd go and take another moisture reading right at our control spots and see if we're getting anywhere. Well, I'm going to start with this guy over in the corner here. Yesterday was 17.3%. And we are now showing 16.9. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a drop than that.
Let's turn some lights on.
This one is showing 22. So I've got a 0.6% drop happening at this one, from 22.6 down to 22. This one is showing no improvement. Now, we rented these big desiccant dryers from Polygon, and they did say it would take a couple of weeks. So perhaps I shouldn't be surprised that I'm not showing that much improvement yet. Because I'm definitely seeing a damp spot just on the other side of center there. I'm going to grab my moisture meter again and see if that shows anything.
Now, I called it a damp spot, but that's just an assumption and not technically correct. My thermal imaging camera shows temperature differences, while my moisture meter actually takes a reading of the moisture level in the floor or the substrate that I'm reading.
That's what my thermal imaging camera is showing. See that dark band right there? Comes to a definite stop right there. And a definite stop right there. Interesting, eh? Well, it's all hovering in the low 8s to high 8 range, basically. 8.9. 7.3. Over here, 8.1. 9.4. So it's interesting that I'm getting, thermal is showing something here. Maybe there's just a little bit of standing water. It's been corralled in a spot right underneath here, but it's not enough to affect the wood. That would be my guess.
The north end of the gym where I'm standing now is the wettest, and after a few days of data, I figured out what's going on. The areas that I'm seeing the greatest amount of drop in are around the edges, and that's because there's a shallow lake of water sitting on the concrete underneath the wood, and as it's receding from the edges, those areas are drying out faster. It makes sense. And where there is still standing water kind of underneath where I'm standing right now, those areas are going to read higher until that standing water is gone, and then the wood will start to dry out at an accelerated rate. Just to show you the effectiveness of these large desiccant forced air dryers, control area number 1, December 11th, we were at 22.6%. The next day, we were at 21.7%, so that's a 0.9% drop. Day 3, we were at 20.6%, so there is another 1.1% drop. And by day 4, we were at 19.2%, so that's a significant drop of 1.4%. So in total, after 4 days, that's a 3.4% drop in moisture content in the wood. So I think we're moving at a good pace. You don't want to dry it out too fast, but you want to make progress at the same time. And this is where it all started. I definitely see another project in my future. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.